Hi everyone. I hope that you've been having an amazing time. I hope that it's been a great time of unlearning and relearning things. I apologize that I'm not with you physically. Hopefully the next time I will be there physically, but I'm sure that you've been having an amazing time. Okay. So sit back, take away every distraction, and let's delve into this amazing topic that is so dear to my heart. For a lot of people who don't know, my name is Tosin Babalola, and yes, everyone sees me as Dr. Tosin Babalola, but what they don't know is that when I was a child, I was diagnosed with a form of autism, okay, Asperger's, and I was diagnosed with ADHD as well. Okay, so I am a special needs child, a special needs adult. My brain is still the brain of an ADHD person. Okay, it is a beautiful brain. It is unique, but it is different. All right, it is different. It's different from it, and I wouldn't want to change it for anyone. So I hope that brings, as we start and delve into this conversation, I hope that brings hope to somebody, that you can see a living, breathing testimony of what a special needs adult looks like. And trust me, I wasn't an easy special needs child. I have scars all over my body. And if you told my mom to sit down here beside me, she would have stories to tell, horror stories of when I was a child. But here I am speaking to you all. So there is hope at the end of the tunnel. There is hope. But for parents who you're just starting the journey, and for parents who think that you're in the middle of your journey, or you're getting close to the end of your journey, until the day you go to heaven and be with God, the journey never ends of being a parent. Okay, first and foremost, not to talk of being the parent of a special needs child, the journey never ends. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So I hope that me sharing my testimony of me being diagnosed with autism and being diagnosed with ADHD and coming forward and eventually having a PhD in psychology, in child psychology, and being able to help other parents, I hope that gives you some level of hope. So I have benefited from being in an inclusive environment. I've benefited from the fact that I have special needs, or I think differently, or I learn differently, hasn't been an hindrance to my life, but it's actually been a propelling force into achieving greater and amazing things in life. Okay, so this topic is extremely special to me. So sit back and let's discuss together. All right. But for the benefit of people who might not know, or, like I said, we're unlearning and we're relearning, let's start by even understanding, what do we mean by special needs? What does that mean? Special educational needs. So special needs is an umbrella or a terminology that is used to discuss or describe, or just having a conversation about children who have learning difficulties or learning disabilities, but like I like to say, we learn a little bit different. Okay, so for most people in the world, there is a round hole that we've all been put into, and like an assembly line, we're all required to go through that hole, right? In that hole, you must be a round peg going through a round hole. But the moment you have a little bit of a dent, I had a ball here just a minute ago. I don't know where my ball has gone, but I have a ball that has different, like an hexagon of some sort, right? And the moment you have a different shape that is different from that exact, yes, this is my ball. All right. So I've got this ball, right? It's an exercise ball. It's a stress ball, but the world expects that you should be a round ball with no edges, with no dents, with nothing. You should be perfect, so you can go in through this perfect hole that they've created for us. But the moment that you have a child, or you as an adult, even if you're in this conference and you are an adult with additional needs, the world sees you different. And rather than looking at you from a strengths-based approach, rather than looking at how can we help you learn, how can we maybe even create a different mode for you, we want to force you through that hole. And the moment that you're not going through that hole, as a school, we're frustrated, the child is frustrated, and most importantly, the parents are frustrated. So special needs is an umbrella that is used to define children who learn a little bit different. Guess what? Even children who are exceptionally good go under that special needs. So I want us to unlearn that terminology whereby special needs is used to describe or is associated with something negative. It is not always negative, all right? that you're special, that you're different. So let that be the first on learning that we're learning. All right. If a child is better at maths and the child is not so good at languages, do we say that that child has special needs? Yes, we do. But that's not necessarily a negative thing, okay? Special needs can be a positive thing. It can be something that you're a genius, you know something a bit different, you learn a little bit different, you've got special needs. So let's start by understanding that special needs does not mean, for a lot of parents, you hear special needs and you hear a death sentence. You hear that that's the end of it. Your child isn't doing great in school. Your child needs to be seen by a professional. They're saying you need to go for an evaluation. The child is not speaking yet, but is the child communicating? Because communication and speech are two very separate things. Are we speaking the language that the child understands? Are there strengths? Are there gifts? So as opposed to looking at it from a negative point and going from a deficit point, can we go from a strength-based approach? Can we have a strength-based approach when we think special needs? Okay? Can we be the guys with the superheroes, right? The superheroes with the superpowers, all right? Now, when we talk about inclusion in terms of special needs, I actually studied inclusion as part of my master's at the University of Toronto. So I actually studied special needs and inclusion. That's how important, or how, I carry inclusion in my heart. So what is inclusion? What is inclusion? Inclusion is defined as ensuring that all children, regardless, all children, regardless of their abilities, regardless of their disabilities, they learn together in a mainstream setting where it is possible. In a mainstream setting where it is possible. All right? But ensuring that each child has the appropriate support. So inclusion is about differentiation. Okay, so how does this child learn, and how can I support this child in the same environment that this child is with everybody else? Because there is, in the world of psychology, right, we're all social beings, and we've learned our values and our cultures and our beliefs by the environment that we live in. Okay, so my father is from the Yoruba Lagos Island, Martins. So we're from Lagos Island. And every Easter Friday, my father and my grandmother from my father's house always had a special dish called frijon. Now, for the Lagosians amongst you, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's called frijon. And it's a very weird dish as far as I'm concerned, right? Or for a lot of Yorubas, you eat amala and ogbono, and it's black with gbegiri that is also grey, and it just looks, pardon my English, it looks like poop on a piece of plate. But it is so delicious and everybody is licking their fingers, and you dare not eat amala with a fork. You have to eat it with your hand, washed, and you are sitting, and you see grown men unbuckling their belts while they are sitting down comfortably to eat this. Now, for the Yoruba people, you have grown up in an environment where you have learned that this is a delicacy, right? The same way you go to Asia and eating frogs, for the life of me, I don't understand it. But eating frogs and eating scorpions and eating turtles is actually a delicacy. Why? Because it is the environment that you have grown up with and the environment has taught you and made you to believe that this is how we behave. All right? So for the Yorubas, even in Nigeria, for the Yorubas, it is a sign of respect that you must prostrate or you must kneel down for everybody. If you go to the Igbos, they don't necessarily do that, right? But we have believed a Yoruba person will see an Igbo person and say, "You're so rude. You're such a rude person." But that's how that Igbo person has grown up, because of their beliefs. So what am I trying to say? How do I bring this into inclusion and segregation? So segregation means that you carry a group of children that you believe, they are different. They should be put in one corner somewhere, and then you put the bright children, the normal children, quote and unquote, who determines normal, in a regular classroom, and then you segregate the children with a diagnosis of autism or ADHD or, the different kinds of, Down syndrome, and you put all of these kids into one other classroom, and you say, they can't mix because these ones need extra support, or they need to learn the behaviors for learning. We say a lot of things that sound logical, but really they don't make any sense. But you see, the idea of inclusion is that If I want you to behave in a particular way, then I will put you, if I want society to be a society where everyone is seen based on their strength, not based on their weakness, where we grow a society that is kind, where we grow a society that is inclusive, where we grow a society that is accommodative and not exclusive, it starts from the classroom. We learn those things where a child that is better at maths is able to stay in the classroom with a child that is better at English, and they can support each other. They can help each other. All right. Where a teacher begins to learn that if I'm in a classroom with a child that is more auditory and then a classroom in a child that is more visual, this child learns visually much more than auditory. Can I provide accommodation and support to each of these children? That is what inclusion is. All right. And I'm a firm believer of inclusion. I'm a firm believer that a child that has a diagnosis of autism and a child who is chatting, passing the chat and is supposedly the most brilliant child, right, can stay in the same classroom and they can learn from each other. One is not deficit to the other. One does not have an upper hand over the other, because when we begin to look at the strengths of each child, then we begin to see that no child should be left behind, and that we can learn from one another. We can learn behaviors that are right from one another. So if a child who has sensory issues, for example, is in a classroom with another, I'll stop here. And I recently found last week that there is actually, so I live in the United Kingdom, right? That there is actually in the United Kingdom what do they call them? It's like a hall, right, where you go to listen to music. I'm trying to remember what they called, like a raving center, right? You go for raves, like a theater of some sort, but it's a theater for deaf people. And guess what? The people who are diagnosed as being deaf and people who can hear go to a concert together, but guess what? For the deaf people, they increase the decibels of the sound so much that the deaf people can feel the music on their skin. Is that not amazing? They can feel the music while the people who can hear have their headphones on. It's the science blows my mind, but that is the world that we want to get to. That is the world of inclusion, where everyone is accommodated to. Everyone can stay. When I used to be a teacher in the classroom, I used to have an entire class where at some point, much more of the kids in my classroom had additional needs than the children who seemingly, quote and unquote, did not have additional needs. And we all thrived. Every child thrived. Every child was supportive. Every child became kind. Every child understood that the world goes beyond just academics. Because as Nigerian parents, as African parents, we're so big on 2 plus 2, 3 plus 3. But guess what? Your 2 plus 2 is asking a question of cognition. Can you pay attention? What's your memory like? So if I teach a child 2 plus 2, if you go through maths, for example, and please follow me, right? If you go through maths, the underlining of maths is BODMAS, right? BODMAS is, if you start maths from primary 1 all the way to university, all the way to PhD, the baseline of mathematics is BODMAS, right? That is what it is. So when you go to school, you're not necessarily learning anything new. You're just putting on top of what it is that you have learned. And academics that we focus on is not what is going to help you in the labor market. What is going to help you in the labor market is some of those soft life skills that seems like we don't teach in the classroom. All right. So when you have a child that has additional needs, what are the life skills that we're teaching that child? So if we're so hung on 2 plus 2 and there's this child that is doing so well and winning all the maths prize, but cannot go to a shopping, and take a shopping list and actually go into the supermarket and buy and say, this is my change, and have those life skills of having to be able to have a conversation with somebody and hold that conversation, then we failed as a society. Where I can be kind to my neighbor, those soft skills, then we failed as a society. All right. So that is what inclusion is. All right. Inclusion is removing those physical, emotional, and academic barriers. Removing those barriers to allow full participation within a classroom. All right. Encouraging students who seem to learn differently They learn differently, and that's the one word I want you to take from here, right? Don't look at special needs as a disability. I learn differently. I learn differently. Absolutely. If I don't sleep, I can't learn nothing. No matter, people will say, when I was in uni, people will say, oh, they're having, they go to the classroom to read overnight. I'm wasting my time. If I don't have 7 hours of sleep, I'm a zombie. I'm an absolute zombie. But I have a PhD right now. Okay. So I learn differently. My brain works in overdrive. All right. I've had to learn some of those soft skills of not saying everything that is in my head and bringing it out of my mouth. All right. I've had to learn those lessons. Those are the soft skills. I was good academically, but I wasn't good with my EQ. All right. So you may say that, oh no, I was still regarded as special needs, but there were strengths in me. There were abilities in me. All right. And that's where I want us to look at. And that's what inclusion is. Using differentiated teaching methods, specialist support or tailored resources within the same mainstream classroom for each child. And you and I need to become better and louder advocates of inclusion. Better and louder advocates of inclusion. So what are the benefits of inclusion? Improved social skills, like I said, right? Improved social skills, increased self-esteem. Because what I find, when I was in the classroom, like I said, for the many years that I taught, I found that children who had additional needs or who needed additional support, especially by the time you get to the age of 5, 6, when they become more aware that the issue that you're dealing with is no longer the additional needs or the additional support they need. It is now an issue of self-confidence. It's now an issue of self-esteem, where the child begins to believe that they cannot do this, where the child begins to believe, I'm not good enough. They are looking for praise. There's no intrinsic motivation anymore because you've been told for 5 years of your life that you're not good. Whether they say it through their words or through their actions by taking you outside of the regular classroom, right? Where you are not allowed to participate in the arts and drama because you're going to scatter the place. You're going to make, it's not going to look neat and tidy. Why do we need to make it look neat and tidy? Because everybody wants this round, perfect all. And your child cannot always be this round, perfect all. I'm a Christian, right? And for many of you, you have your many religions. But as a Christian, Jesus was not a round, perfect all. It wasn't, all right? It wasn't a round, perfect all. Some of the greatest accomplished human beings on the surface of the earth in the past, today, Mozart had autism, all right? It wasn't a perfect all. Albert Einstein, that physics and science depend solely on, had autism, right? He was regarded as a madman half the time, all right? Sigmund Freud, the father of psychology, every single person had a diagnosis of additional needs. All right, that should be a round of applause somewhere there. Elon Musk, that we all hate, or most people, the guy who has Tesla, he has a diagnosis of autism. Bill Gates, ladies and gentlemen, Bill Gates, who single-handedly with his foundation eradicated polio in Africa. All right, he has a diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome, a form of autism. Donald Trump probably has something as well. Right? It probably does. So all the great minds in the world, every single one, name one great mind that you know that has influenced and changed the way we have thought about something. Darwin, the guy he had special needs. Mozart, the guy of music, in every single aspect, be it art, be it science, in every single aspect, they had what is called additional needs, special needs. So my question to you, parents, is, would you want to be normal? Why would you want to be normal? I don't want to be normal. I enjoy being abnormal, if that's the word that you're going to use as special needs, right? But we need to change our perspective into inclusion and seeing the strength that is in each child, all right? That is in each child. Having a child who is on the autism spectrum and saying, can this child benefit with a visual planner? All right. Can this child benefit with a learning support assistant? Can this child benefit with chunking? So rather than giving this child 10 assignments to do, can we start with 1? Can we celebrate that the child is able to do that 1? All right. Can we give this child sensory breaks and actually plan that in the classroom? There's something called the brain gym. And I found that brain gym was something that was very useful for my children in the classroom when I used to be in the classroom. And I would create this flashcards and put it on the shelf. So I used to teach in a Montessori school, and I would put it on the shelves, and it was it was what my children who needed additional support would go and use sometimes. But guess what we discovered? That even the so-called typical children enjoyed the brain gyms much more than the children with additional support, right? They enjoyed it. They participated in it. It was something that bonded them together because it was a physical activity that brought each person together. And this is where it comes, where we talk about advocacy. And that for me is a big deal. I think that I am sitting here today not having been medicated, going through the hard work of going through mainstream school, because I had a mother who would fight for me. I had a father who would fight for me. I had a father who, when the teachers saw my father coming, they used to call my father, and my father especially, much more than my mom, they used to call my father professor, because I lived with my father much more. They used to call my father professor because my father would have a big folder. And he would come and say, oh, but you said this. When you say she's improving, what does that mean? I want scientific evidence. When you say her attention has grown, what is the attention span has gone up? What does that mean? I want to come into the classroom to observe. How is she doing here? How is she doing there? It was my biggest loudspeaker, because he believed fiercely that I could be something. He believed fiercely that there was a gift inside of me. And that was the reason why I'm 5'11" and a half. And most people wonder how I don't slouch. Because a lot of people my height, a lot of women, men who are tall, they slouch because you just want to hide away. You don't want to be seen because you see all the deficits in you. But I hold my head high. I wear heels. I'm proud to be tall and high because there's nothing to hide. I love my brain. In fact, I'm not trying to be funny, but I think if you don't have my special kind of brain, you're the ones with additional. You're the ones that actually should be segregated, not us. Not me and your kids, all right? Not me and your kids. So why is parental involvement critical in SEN? Number one, you know your child. You know your child better than anybody else on the planet of the earth. Ideally, you should be spending much more time with your child than anybody else. So you know your child. You know what your child is capable of doing. You've seen your child at their best and you've seen your child at their most vulnerable. And it is important. You cannot disassociate yourself. And what I find a lot of times is that you find parents who take a posture of you're doing me a favor. They take a posture of professionals are doing me a favor. So it's a posture of there's a posture of, just help me, just help my child. No, do not take that posture. Do not take that posture. Demand for what is right for your child. If you do not speak, who will speak up for your child? Who will speak up for your child? You can explain your child's behavior and your child's triggers better than anybody else in the world. You can tell, I find a lot of times where you say to a parent, this child is not, a teacher says to a parent, this child is not speaking well, this child is not communicating. And the mother will say, which child? This child is a parrot at home. And it's a war between the parent and the teacher. And you used to say, I will provide you evidence, because there might be something that is within my house that is making my child a little bit more comfortable. There may be a strategy that I am using in my house that you can replicate in the classroom to be able to get the same result that I am getting at home from what it is that you're getting in the classroom. So you must be your child's advocate. Do not take anything less. Do not take less. Do not accept that you are in a lower position. You are not a beggar. Your child is not deficit. You're not in a disadvantaged position. I hope that sinks into somebody. I hope it does. I hope it does. I hope it does. I hope it sinks into someone. And you're the one who would, identify early. You will detect early what is happening with your child. You're the one who will be with your child. A teacher most likely will not have contact with your child until your child, in this part of the world, until your child is most likely maybe 3 years old, right? So the early ages of your child's life, you're your child's first teacher. So parents, can I suggest, equip yourself, educate yourself. learn, know more. Go to conferences like this. Go to where you can be taught behavioral science. How can you be that teacher? How can you be a speech therapist for your child? So when I first gave birth to my first son, remember that I was a special needs child, okay? So I gave birth to my first son. And guess what? My first son did not say a word till he was almost 4. Now he's a chatterbox, right? I can't even keep him quiet. Sometimes I wonder and say, God, what did we do here to make you such a chatterbox? All right. But because I had lived this journey and had lived this life and I understood it, my child didn't have a special needs person. He didn't go to speech and language therapy. I thought to myself, I went to Harvard. I went online. There's so many courses online now. Educate yourself. Educate yourself. Don't let someone who sounds good, who sounds like they know what they're doing, steal from you and make you feel like you are less than someone else. Your child needs you. All right. So be your first child's advocate. All right. Ensure that as a parent, you are involved in the educational plan of your child. Ensure that as a parent, there is no plan, there is no meeting, there is nowhere that your child is being spoken about that you are not present, that you are not there, and that you do not have an opinion. All right. Ensure that you have an opinion, but knowledge brings power. Parents, can I say that one more time? Knowledge brings power. Knowledge brings power. You will not be the jack of all trade. All right. You will need specialists. But for you to be able to have a conversation with specialists, you must have some knowledge yourself. You must know something yourself. I remember a parent that I was working with, right? And this parent had grown to become so assured of herself. And she called me one day and she said, Dr. Tosin, guess what? She had gotten a speech and language therapist. And this speech and language therapist was having a session with her child. And I encourage parents, sit there. If they're going to be uncomfortable with you sitting there, then that specialist probably doesn't know what they're doing. All right? A specialist should be comfortable being there so that you can learn what they're doing. So that a speech and language therapist can only spend 1 hour, a maximum of 2 hours with your child. Why can't they teach you those things that you're supposed to be doing so that all through the day, all through the week, you're doing it with your child as well? And she said, I remember that in school, they're teaching the children the sound. So, that's what they're teaching. And this speech and language therapist started saying to the child, A for apple. Pardon my laughter. A for apple. B for black. Say black. Say black. And she sat there and she looked at the guy for the first 5 minutes and she just said to the guy, Oga, it's enough. Come and be going. You don't know what you are doing here. But you see, somebody may come and give you some cook and bull story and say, oh no, it's a different type of special service that we do now where no. Phonics is no longer the way. It's letter names that we're teaching now. And you're confusing the child because she was able to see that in the plan that was created, because she was there in the plan. She was there when the plan was being created. This is not what we agreed that was going to be taught this child in the plan. Okay? You can hold people accountable. For if somebody has said to you that this is what I am going to offer and you are paying your hard-earned money for that specialist to offer that, ensure that you hold them accountable. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. But you see, the reason why you'll be shy and afraid is like a fashion designer who cannot sew. And when all the tailors decide that they are going away, or a woman who has a driver and a beautiful array of cars but can never drive that car. And sure, when we talk about inclusion, when we talk about parent advocate and parent involvement, it is not just for you to be that person who just goes, shows up and pays somebody to do the work. No. Ensure that you are the one that is actually doing the work yourself. There's so many resources out there. And finally, as I begin to round up, one of the benefits of being your child's advocate, and being an involved parent is that you can offer emotional support to your child. You can be there to talk to them. You know what they're going through. You understand what it is that they are facing. because you've walked that journey with them. You've walked that journey with them. Parents, don't outsource your involvement. Don't outsource it to somebody else. It may seem easier, but don't outsource it to somebody else. If you need a break as a parent, take a break. Take a step back, refresh, refuel, but make sure you get back into the ring, fighting for your child. Don't never step out of that ring for your child, because your child becomes defenseless. You are your child's first defense. Your child's first defense. Ensure that that defense is always there. All right? Ensure that that defense is always there. Ensure that it is there. Now, what are some of the barriers that you will face? What are some of the barriers that we'll face? As I begin to round up, I'm told that I have just 2 minutes left. What are the barriers that you begin to face? You live in a country that specialization is really low. Okay? That's the truth. You live in a country where a lot of professionals are quacks and they really don't know what they're doing. That is a barrier. That is a barrier. But that barrier is reduced, like I said, when you as a parent, you know what you're doing. When you as a parent, you invest in yourself. You invest in knowledge for yourself. Therefore, you can become that specialist, not just for your child, but then tomorrow you become that specialist for many other children as well. Many other children as well. All right. I'm getting distracted because I'm told that I need to go, that I need to get out of here fast because there are other amazing speakers that you need to speak with. So I'm going to stop here for today. I wish I could go on and on and on, but I'm sure that you're going to have loads and loads of questions. My phone number will be there, or rather my email will be there. So if you have parents who have questions that I've not been able to address, I've decided to go a different route, right? As opposed to just giving you loads of terminologies and different things to talk about. I've decided to speak to the heart of the parent, to encourage you, to build you up, to tell you that you've got this, all right? To tell you that you've got this. There's hope at the end of the tunnel, all right? Your children have so much strength. Let no one tell you that your child is not enough. Let no one tell you that your child is deficit. If a professional is coming to you and the first thing they're talking to you about is the deficits of your child, run. All right. Make sure that a professional, a specialist, comes from a strength-based approach. What is your child able to do now? What is your child good at? Every child that was created by God, every human being created by God on the surface of this earth has one thing, at least one thing that is good in them. Make sure that that specialist is finding that good. And for you as a parent, make sure that you are that advocate who is reminding everyone. Let them call you names. You're not the parent who is oblivious of the truth, okay? You're not the parent who is denying the fact or denying the truth, but ensure that that truth of so-called deficits is not outweighing the truth of the strength that your child has. Thank you so much for having me, and enjoy the rest of the program.